I love you.
I'm sure I'm not alone in saying that the virus brought me many new hobbies. I travelled 40 hours by coach to get to Brittany, where I could weather the first virus lockdown. I came up with the idea to make a marionette. I thought I could take him with on my travels. I've never done this before, and so it was a steep learning curve. I began with some small logs. The wood I was using wasn't ideal. In fact, in hindsight, it was far too heavy. I'm being stupidly proud. This is my first ever mechanical joint. First ever functioning piece of woodwork. To be honest, everything else has been pretty, but... I used a collection of different tools. To begin with, I didn't have any power tools, and so I used hand saws, chisels, hammers. I didn't have a mallet, I had a lump of wood. Everything's a bit easy. Things moved a lot quicker once we got the power. It was easier with power tools. Those are noisy, aren't they? I still drilled most of my holes by hand because the only drill bits we had were for steel and very expensive, and I broke one, so I stopped using them. While I was making this fox, I put the chisel through my knuckle. Yeah, steep learning curves a lot of the way. I still have that scar. Be careful with chisels. It took a little chip out. I was very frustrated waiting for my finger to heal. I was considerably more mad after this. I started taking a lot of the videos with my phone.
Yeah, we go. Front paw. Back paw. You can't get the page.
Not above my head, I'm not. I wanted to work through the night like Geppetto. I strung the puppet in so many different ways. I changed his leg joints. I couldn't choose how to do his body. I had to change it several times as well. I had a chicken wire mesh body that had papier-mâché on the outside, but I didn't like the way that looked. It looked out of place against the sort of more traditional wood. I had a stuffed body filled with straw made of a wool blanket, but it would become misshapen and he started to look like a dachshund. I had a log body, but that was just too heavy. So in the end I actually settled for a thin plank. If I made him again, I would make a lot from balsa wood and hollow things out. I didn't actually have access to the internet for a lot of this project, and so I largely made it up. The wood was never treated to be made into anything. It's firewood, and it's not even very good firewood. I soaked the wood in between so that it shouldn't crack, drying too quickly. The weather was very hot, and I did actually get a crack in the side of his head, but it closed again when the weather cooled down. Now, there was a phase where he looked really cute and I was very happy with him, but he was too heavy to use. And then he turned quite scary. The farmer will want to shoot you. He might shoot your tail off, so keep your tail between your legs when you run away. What you must do is if a gingerbread man says to you, or a gingerbread boy says to you,
My dad says he's too scary now.
that he doesn't want to get wet in the water, you can say to him that he can ride on your nose and then chuck him up in the air and gobble him up. Yeah. It's off. I don't like the way his neck moves, so I've had a new idea, which is to use that mechanism that I designed on the bird. That one. On him. To be or not to be. To be or not to be. That is the question, but what is the answer? Yada yada yada. Blah blah blah. It's hard to remember to close my mouth. Something I'm proud of today. This mechanism. It does this. I made them a bit smaller, not so scary now, but a bit more like a fox, and sometimes the fox in stories is a baddie, so. He's not perfect, but this was my first attempt at woodworking, and I'm quite happy with the results. Tears, blood and sweat in this fox, and I've learnt a lot about patience doing it. With any project like this, that there are prototypes after prototypes. Every finished piece is probably going to be discarded and replaced with a better one. Trowel? Not sure. Mallet?
Yeah.
Oh, I've got a dashing piece of wood I've been using as a mallet. It's doing the trick. Now I can have an actual mallet. Cool, give us a hand. How are you supposed to get these started right? With a little nail or just... Is there a trick?
Well, yeah, usually there's a little thing on a screw.
Thing on a screw. I've got it now, I was doing this project for most of the duration of the coronavirus lockdown in France. So that's a long time for not a particularly stunning result.